Calling all technology coaches. Join Forward Edge this summer for a 2-day coaches camp packed with high-quality professional development exclusively for you. Attendees will work with like-minded coaches on creating strategies for teacher relationships, executing coaching cycles, and building a culture of coaching and tech integration within their school or district. There are 2 opportunities to attend Coaches Camp this summer. Join us either June 25 and 26 in New Orleans prior to ISTE 2022 or in Cincinnati on July 28 and 29. Please visit forward-edge.net/coachcamp to reserve your spot today.
Aloha, I'm Katie Ritter.
And I'm Justin Thomas, and this is the Restart Recharge podcast, a podcast by coaches for coaches. We bring you the tips and tricks to help you in your everyday work as an instructional technology coach, or whatever they call you in your school district.
So hopefully you're going to leave this episode with us today feeling just a little bit less on your own coaching island.
Hey, just a friendly reminder, you heard that Coaches Camp promo to start things off for this episode. If you use the code RR Podcast in all caps, you're going to get $50 off of your registration. So make sure that you head over there, register, and use that RR Podcast in all caps. Today we have an awesome episode. We previously discussed different ways to create a positive culture on your campus with teachers and administration alike. Today's episode is going to reach for the small spaces in our day where we can add a smile, create a positive moment, or impart joy to those around us. So from the coach perspective to the teacher role, when we're engaging in these small moments, we're going to be able to help you continue to create a positive culture. So we have 2 awesome guests on today. I have the honor of introducing Jill Dubois on for the first time. Jill is an invested elementary educator in Clearwater, Florida. She has taught littles for over 20 years and is passionate about infusing the joy of learning into the daily routine. She uses her authentic voice to foster hope and celebrate equity and empathy. Jill is also a published children's book author and illustrator of several books and is the founder and optimistic originator of Imparting Joy, LLC. She believes everyone has a story to tell and enjoys guiding others to spark their stories with confidence. So welcome in, Jill.
Wow, thanks. That was quite the introduction. I appreciate that. It's kind of like, wow, like it sounds important, but I'm just a regular human being.
We're glad to have you.
Yes, a very important regular human being.
Extraordinary things with extraordinary people. So this is great. Thanks.
And Jill, for all of those books, just so we can give you a shout out and we can link to them in the show notes, will you say for our listeners the names of all of the books that you have authored and illustrated?
Sure. Let's see. The first one was Lives Seashells. And the second one was Road to Awesome, A Journey for Kids. The next one is Look at You, Piper Lou. And the last one is Destiny's Amazingly Different Dreams.
There we go. We should have warned you.
You should have.
I don't think I could tell you my full name on the spot if I'm nervous. So, and I feel like we have a little celeb in the room because I know the Piper Lou inspiration is just right next to you. Am I right?
Yes,
Yeah.
she is fully knocked out asleep. So,
Yes. Well, we are glad to have you, Jill, and I have the pleasure of introducing to you Anna Marie Reinhardt, who you have heard on the podcast with us before. Anna Marie was an intervention specialist for 5 years, where she worked with elementary, middle, and high school students and had to teach all 4 content areas with a very wide variety of learners. She is now an instructional design coach here at Forward Edge, where she serves a pre-K through 8 building in one of the largest school districts in the state. She was placed in this school building after the building was awarded a grant for one-to-one iPads for their 5th through 8th grade students, and now they are excited that the entire building is one-to-one, and she is able to support all staff and students in the building. She is also a Google certified educator, trainer, and coach, and she serves as a mentor coach for both us here at Forward Edge and the Verizon Innovative Learning Schools program. So Anna Marie, we are super excited to have you back on the podcast. I feel like it feels like it's been a while.
Been a while.
I'm glad that you're
I
back.
know. I'm so glad to be back. It does. It feels like it's been forever. effort.
I know. Well, this is going to be an awesome episode talking about joy and bringing joy, because I think we have two of the friendliest faces that we have ever known here. And I don't know anyone who is not just gravitates to both of you, because you're both just so kind and always smiling. And I know that gives you a lot of fun stories to tell, because people just open up and want to be around you. So you guys are perfect to be here with us talking about this today. So let's dig in if you're ready.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Ready.
Here we go. So an old colleague of mine, I think for those loyal listeners, you've probably heard me say this before, but her name is Debbie Hauser. She is the assistant superintendent currently at Middletown City Schools. And she has this saying that I just love so much when we're talking about culture. And I try to remind myself of this. And she says, culture is every interaction with every person, every minute of every day. And I think that is so important to remind ourselves that. And so we know, like Anna Marie, from your perspective, one of the biggest responsibilities of a coach is honestly to help shape the culture of the building, right? And get people to want to pursue lifelong learning and be excited about what they're doing. And then we also know that imparting joy is something that's not just done by the coach, right? That whole every person from Deb's quote there, but also by teachers as well, right, Jill? So we'd love to hear from both of you about some ways that you are imparting joy throughout your building in the different roles that you serve.
Sure. Well, I can speak to something that kind of happened super recently. So our school culture, I would say, is really great actually where I am. But the last 2 years have taken a toll on everybody, teachers, students, families. And so I was actually really happy when the principal asked me if there was anything I could think of for our most recent staff professional development day, just to kind of, like you said, bring a little bit of joy, like remind everybody why it is, like why we do what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's always fun when he asks me to do something like that, because then that means I get to just like focus on working with kids for maybe a couple of hours that week. And so what I ended up doing was just kind of like sneakily pulling kids out of class. And I just told the teachers, like, don't worry, like what I'm just going to borrow them for like 5 minutes out in the hallway. We'll be right back. And I asked them like 3 questions. First, I asked them what they love about their school. Then I asked them what they love about their teachers. And then I also asked them, what are some of the things that their teachers say or do that make them feel really good? And in order to kind of keep it anonymous, I just scrubbed the video and I just kept their voices, which was really, really cool, because then nobody felt like, oh my gosh, she only talked to this grade level, or of course she picked that kid, or anything like that. And it was totally anonymous. Nobody knew what grade level these kids were from, because I went all around the building. And I made sure to keep it pure, like kid also, because it like if a kid goes on, if there was one student that's like sticking out of my mind that I'm like, when your teachers do X, Y, and Z, like how does that make you feel? And he's like, happy, just happy. And so like I kept that whole audio clip in there, right?
Yeah.
Because I also knew I was going to go back in and add subtitles. And so like typing that out, just seeing it come across the screen was so funny, and it made everybody in the cafeteria laugh, just that one part. But I just think it was a really good reminder for teachers of all the things they do that their kids love and that mean so much to them, even if it's just like, a kid wrote a story and the teacher stopped in the middle of class to let us all hear it. Like that teacher may have forgotten that even happened. But that was one thing that I thought was a pretty light lift on my part, and really, really impactful, and just kind of brightened everybody's day a little bit. Now they can watch that whenever they want.
I love that so much. I should have known myself. I should have known I was maybe going to get a little weepy eyed on the subside of some of these stories. I love happy tears.
I love the subtitles. That would have been fun to type it.
Jill, what about you?
Well, you think about, your own culture of your school. And I know you guys see so many different schools. And when you are in the same school day after day after day after day for the 170th day in a row, right? I mean, it's like you've got to shake things up a little bit. It gets pretty routine, pretty mundane. And it really, at this point of the year, I mean, you think, gosh, we're in the fourth quarter, we're almost to the end, but, everybody's tired, everybody's frustrated. This is always my very favorite thing. And I've done this for the past 10 years and it has worked like a charm every single year. But I go on explore.org and there are a pair of bald eagles. There's a male and a female, and they have a live webcam from Decorah, Iowa on these eagles. And the eagles come back, they're mates for life. They come back to the same nest every single year. And it's about February, which is perfect timing because that's, when we're all just so tired, right? And everybody's so like, I don't want to say like negative, but yeah, I'm going to say negative because everybody's just negative. Everybody's just like ready, for the end. We've been with the same kids, the same people, the same colleagues, the same peers. Anyway, you can watch this webcam 24/7. We call it Nestflix because I know, isn't that the cutest thing? So we call it Nestflix. And I send out just a mass email to everybody. And I'm like, hey, the eagles are back. Mom and dad, they're here. They're going to lay their eggs approximately February 25th. You guys keep watching. And it is a process. You start from when you first see them, get back to the nest. And they're so loving. Just watching their relationship and watch how they interact with each other and build the nest together and fluff it back up and put all the things in it that need to be in it to keep those eggs warm. And then, then they lay their eggs. They lay between 1 and 3 eggs. Well, this season they've laid 2. So this season of Nestflix, we are watching 2 eggs, right? And we just make a big deal out of it. And I kind of update with emails every once in a while. But yesterday, the first egg pipped. So it means it got a little crack in it, has a little hole in it. It's getting bigger. And within 15 or 30 hours, they're going to have a new little baby. So we've talked about it. Everybody is so excited about it. And we each poke our heads. We've got spare computers. Everybody's got either an iPad or a computer, and everybody's got a monitor up watching these birds. And it's fascinating because not only is it something we're doing as a school, but it's something that we're doing with the kids. And there is so much to teach them. There's so much to teach them about birds of prey and about what they're doing and how they mate for life. And they come back to the same nest and they lay their eggs. And why do they sit on those eggs? How do they not break? Why is it so deep? Those nests are 8 feet, wide. And it's just fascinating. So, we're all so excited. So today, this is just the perfect example because today we were so excited and we were on pins and needles hoping that this little eaglet would hatch, and it didn't happen. So we've said, all right, go watch it at home because there's going to be babies this weekend. And everybody's just so excited. So come Monday, right? It's our state testing week, but oh well. We're all
Eagles
so
watch.
excited. They're so excited about the eagles, and there's something very calming about them. My students are second grade, but whenever they see, the eagles change places, the mom and dad, they shift, and one goes and hunts and one comes back with food, and you watch them drop their crop. And it's just amazing the things that we've learned scientifically. And, the kids will all just stop. If I'm in the middle of a lesson and something happens, I'll just be like, oh, everybody stop. And it's quiet and we watch. And it's almost like there's an instant calm in our classroom. So not only is it educational, but it's classroom management.
Yeah, I was going to say, who'd have thought these eagles would be classroom management strategy?
And it's just a beautiful thing. So, bringing nature into our classroom really over the past 10 years, and not just our classroom, but it expanded now into other classrooms, and the office staff are now watching. And, so it's just really cool. It's a cool time. It's usually about a month or 2 time period. So
I love that. I love kind of like the 2 very different approaches. Like Anna Marie, you were really focused on like, hey, let me remind you of like the good work that you're doing, which is like incredibly important. But then Jill, I love your approach too, which is like, hey, there is more to life than just like testing and what we've got going on here at school. So sometimes it's just fun to get everybody around on the same topic where we can have common conversation and like break bread together over over this topic and different things. So I kind of love the two examples that you both shared that are both very different in their focus, but it sounds like both equally as powerful and just like giving a laugh, giving a common thing to talk about. And especially at a time of year when, like Jill, like you said, it really, there's no beating around the bush. It's needed, right? Like, especially over these past couple of years. So awesome. Thanks for sharing those awesome examples.
Well, that really was how a small impact made a larger impact. I mean, that you would just take right over to what we were going into. But is there any other larger impacts that your small actions of joy might have had on school culture? So you both gave really good examples. Was there anything else that maybe comes to mind that just kind of a small little segment turned out to have kind of an avalanche into a positive snowball effect?
Yeah, there's a couple things that come to mind for me. I think as a coach in one school building, I not only get to know the teachers super well, but I get to know the kids pretty well too, which is awesome. And there are infamous children in every school building, right? Like the ones that are just kind of tricky or that are like super duper chatty. And I know who they are too. And so I always try to look for like really good things that those kids are doing, because I think sometimes those kids that are just a little bit more challenging, it's easy to fall into a trap of just like feeling frustrated by them. Like I did it as a teacher. I think every teacher has been there. And so I always try and almost kind of seek out those kids. Like if I go into a classroom for an observation, like I'm going to sit next to them and I'm going to like help try and keep them on task. And then I'm going to go tell the teacher like how well they did, just to try and again, create a little bit of positivity. There's one friend that I'm thinking of who I ran into the hallway probably like 5 or 6 times this week. And I'd be like, fancy seeing you here. And he'd be like, great to see you too. This kid is like 8. And then I was like on my way up to I was waving my badge in front of the elevator and he's like, you better go catch your ride. And like, he's just so funny. And so I immediately like texted his teacher and I'm like, he is just the friendliest kid. Like he just like makes me smile. So just kind of trying to, again, like highlight those kind of trickier kiddos, or maybe even give them a little bit of joy, because I'm sure sometimes they get frustrated if they're like super impulsive too and have a hard time controlling their bodies or not talking too much. And then the other thing that I kind of wanted to mention is not something I've done, but Jill, what you said actually reminded me of it. One of the reading specialists that I work with, who also happens to be the testing coordinator for the school, so she's got a lot going on right now. She has tried super duper hard to prepare kids for the test, but also give them like an authentic audience for the test, because she's like, these kids are writing these pieces for nobody. Like they don't have a person to write to. So she asked me if I'd help her create a testing lady that they can refer to and have a visual of. So I used Canva to make a testing lady, and we printed her out and we hung her up on the board. And I even took like the state testing logo and I put it on her laptop. And so now they have like an authentic audience, and it's kind of like a jokey thing with the kids. So I thought that was pretty cool. Just like something so small, but it made a huge difference because now the kids have an audience and she's this real person.
It's like the test elf on a shelf.
Yeah.
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 Yes. Yeah. And she's in all the classrooms that this reading specialist is in right now. So everybody knows the testing lady. She looks very friendly too, which I think is helpful.
You designed her well.
That is an awesome idea. Oh my goodness. I might have to come up with that like before Monday. Wow. Yeah.
I can share her with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Anna, we might need a link that we can put on the show notes.
Yeah, totally. I can do that.
Well, when I think of, kind of adding on to those things, specifically, in the classroom, or I have 2 examples as well. So in the classroom, you always have those kids who are the kids that are bored, the kids that are like, what do we do when we're done? That's like that main question, right? And it just like you cringe when you hear, what do I do when I'm done? It's like, oh. And I got to that point where I was so tired of saying, go read a book, go draw, go do this, go do that. And since I have learned how to use so many new and fun and interesting and engaging tech tools and credit to my EdU badge knowledge, because honestly, 3 years ago, I wouldn't have done any of that. And now that I have all of those tools in my toolbox, I have never seen kids come more alive by being able to use some of those things that I've learned, and I've been able to implement them into their own learning. So
awesome.
one example is Book Creator. Book Creator is a very simple, easy to use platform where kids can actually make their own books digitally. So it's really interesting because when I started, this year, I'm like, I don't know if these kids are going to get it, right? They're all over the place. But we just have to have that patience. We just have to have that positivity, that optimism that, all we have to do is show them. We just need to model it for them. Let's show them how to do it. And I wonder what they can do. Well, it didn't take but maybe 2 weeks into the first of the school year before we started using Book Creator. And now when my kids are like, what do I do with it? They don't ask, right? They don't even ask, what do I do when I'm done? They know that when they're finished, they have something that they're working on. And usually it's a book on Book Creator, or it's a video on Flipgrid, or it's something else. But their book creators are amazing. You've got kids and they're like, well, what do I write about? What do I make a book about? I'm like, anything you want. Aww. They're like, what? Anything I want. Like, well, that's appropriate for second grade. And they're like, oh, okay. So, but I've got kids who write books about pets, about animals, about the rainforest, about roller coasters, about the ocean. And it's like, I didn't give them those ideas. They had those ideas. They're things that they wanted to know more about. They wanted to research and investigate. And now they're making their own little books. And you really can do so much with that. I send the links to the parents. They're so excited and they are so confident, and their level of just joy is through the roof because they've done something by themselves. They're not sitting in a corner reading a book. They're putting their mind to use. They're putting their skills to good use, and they're excited about it. So, and at first we had the problem of them rushing through their work so that they could get to the fun part.
Yeah.
That's what I would do as a student.
That's a learning curve, but they like to tattle on each other. So it's like, he's not done yet, but he's on Book Creator. I'm like, okay, all right, let them figure it out, right? So they did. They became very accountable, very responsible in a respectful manner with each other. But that's just an example. Another example is...
Jill, let me stop you before you share the other example, because I just want to say to everyone listening to press pause, acknowledge this timestamp, go back a minute or two to when Jill first started sharing this example. And if you missed it when she said it, she teaches second graders.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for all of our primary teachers, our elementary teachers, our folks who doubt what young kids can do, Jill just gave you a recipe for improving that classroom and embedding technology in a meaningful way. And you can share that clip with them somehow. So sorry. Thank you, Jill.
Yeah.
Your second example.
You're allowed to move on now.
I'll add on a little bit to that because I was not an expert in any of those, right? I just had the basics because I earned the micro credential and I knew, how to get them started. But believe me, they were the ones that figured out, hey, you can change the font. Hey, you can change this color. Oh, you can make it smaller. Oh, you can add pictures. You can add video. Oh, now you can add Bitmojis. Oh my goodness, you can add Canva. They teach me what I can add to Book Creator. So yeah, you give them a little bit and boy, they'll run with it.
I love it.
The other thing, okay. So I really try and not be too serious around the school. And I feel like, when we have our kids walking in a straight line down the hallway, get on the tightrope, hands to yourself, hugs and bubbles, whatever you do with kids, or even, I don't know, high school, middle school, I'm sure it's a little bit different, but elementary, it's always teachers are always trying to keep their kids in a straight line. And, who cares? Who cares if they're in a straight line? And I remember my kids in my classroom, I'm like, all right, everybody line up. Okay, when you get in the hallway, you're going to walk like a ninja. And they're like, what? Yeah, you're going to walk like a ninja. And so every day there's some different way we walk down the hallway so that they don't, they've got some freedom. Let them be themselves. What other way to express a joyful attitude and optimism and positivity than letting kids be who they need to be walking down a hallway? Yeah, they have to be quiet, right? They can't shout, they can't touch each other, but they can walk however they want to walk. If it's not in a straight line, it's okay. And I have teachers that will look at us walking down the hallway and they're like, why are they're quiet. What are you doing? I'm like, I just let them walk however they want to walk. They don't have to walk in a straight line. They can skip, they can march, they can butt kick, they can do whatever they need to do, right? Themselves. But it works. It's just things that you don't think you got to be serious and you got to be like, they got to respect you. They will respect you if you let them just have a little bit of space.
I love that. What an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
I know. And now I want, like, you have nest flicks. Now I want, like, walk in the hallway line flicks, because I want like live footage of these kids all walking like different ways. I have this picture in my head and it's hysterical.
I also want a video of to go back in time when you told the kids that they can make a book about anything they want, to see their excitement.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Especially because that gives them. Well, you learn something too about them, about what their interests are, and you can even build the connections and relationships that way too.
We do a little bit of a, I don't know, like economic kind of classroom management. We have a little economic thing where they earn certain things and they trade them in. Well, one of the little things they trade in it's money for is our coupons, and their coupons are show and tells. And believe it or not, what they want to show and tell are their books. Like, they don't bring in things from home. They don't bring in, whatever, remote control car. They want to read their books to their friends. So they pull up the book on Book Creator and they get to show it on the big smart board. And that's their show and tell. They pay for that. So, again, that's just something that has built up their self-esteem and built up their confidence level and something that they can do. I have one of my kids he's kind of a lower level learner, and he doesn't write very well. So he's like, can I talk text in the words into my book? I'm like, yes, please do. And you would have thought you would have given him $1 million, that he didn't have to sit there and write something out by hand because it was so hard for him. But it's a great book on oceans and ocean life. So it's just fun. It's fun to see their personalities. It's fun to see what they are interested in, and then they share it with others. And yeah, it's been a great year.
Here I am getting weepy-eyed again. Time number 2.
We'll keep the weep count as we go through this podcast.
Weep flicks.
Right, weep flicks. We got nest flicks. We got the walking down the hall flicks. Now we got weep flicks here. But Jill, talking a little bit more about Book Creator and books. Obviously, you got little authors here in your classroom, but you yourself are an author, and your publishing company is called Imparted Joy, LLC. So how has your writing brought that impact of imparting joy to your students and maybe other littles that aren't in your school district that are reading your books? And how did you come up with a name, too, for your publishing?
It actually was the name for the publishing company. It was actually a hashtag that I just started using on Twitter.
Okay.
And I thought, I just wanted something different. And it was like impart, and then ed was in capital letters for education, impart, ed, joy. So, and it was just, we found a little group on Twitter that just kind of became my little community. And they were the ones that kind of helped me build up my own confidence and my voice, and to speak and to write and to do all the things. And that's how that all started. But I do like to say that I don't call myself like an author and an illustrator. I like to say I'm a storyteller that writes and draws, because that's actually what I'm doing. I mean, the stories, and when I read my stories to my kids, or I read them to other schools or other classrooms, I like to tell the process of how it all gets started. It's not just, hey, I have an idea, let's write a book. No, there's so many steps to it. You do a heart dump, right? You think about the things that are important to you, your family or your friends or experiences or, special things in your life or pets. And then you kind of just, you just put it all together. Eventually it all comes together. It doesn't have to, there's no right or wrong in telling a story and sharing a message. But I think everybody, including children, especially, I think have a message to share. Everybody's been through something different. Everybody has a different story to tell. So it's just kind of like, how do you want to get there? I love to model that for them, share that with other, even adults and aspiring authors who want to do that, because I think it's just so important that we use our voice.
That is awesome. And if you were, on season 1, the finale, Michael said everyone's got a story to tell. So Michael Roush tells, everyone's got a story to tell, and Jill's telling her story through the illustrations and the publishing there, which is just awesome.
Yeah. Well, and Jill, I paraphrase it. I think it was on our first episode of season 2, our FETC recap, when they were talking about Dr. J, the bus driver.
Oh, yes.
FETC and his moments of joy. And so I paraphrase what you said at dinner that very first night when you were talking about happiness versus joy. But I feel like coming straight from the source might be a little bit more powerful than my butchered attempt at trying to capture your sentiment. So would you mind? Do you remember what I'm talking about? Would you mind to share that real quick?
It's kind of like I call it my megaphone moment, because that's like what I like to really share is the difference between happiness and joy. Because happiness, it's a feeling, but it's a fleeting feeling. It's not something that sticks around, because there are so many things that can change our happiness within a few seconds or moments. But when you have joy is that internal satisfaction of hope and peace that you have, that's kind of in your soul and in your spirit. And it's not something that can be taken away, right? Even if you have the hardships and the valleys, you still are going to be able to find something that will give you that little spark of hope, or that little spark of something that can keep you going or pull you up out of it. And it's something that needs to be cultivated, something that has to be, it's a discipline. It's definitely not, it's going to be there. Yeah, it's there, but you need to make sure that you are feeding it and helping it to grow.
I love that. We count up to 3, I think, a little bit. But anyway, that will be perfect for the next question I'm going to ask.
Oh, yeah. And Jill is 2 for 2 by being put on the spot and just coming up with it right
thank
there.
you, Jill.
Yeah. Hey, we're going to take a moment's break to listen from our sponsors, but when we'll come back, we'll have a little bit more on Imparted Joy. Looking for a program that reaches all teachers in learning new tools to integrate in their lessons? Edu Badges is the answer. Edu is an anytime, anywhere badging program that is designed to take bite-sized tools for instruction and teach teachers how to use them. Edu has received the ISTE Seal of Alignment for educator standards, and each badge in our expanding library is aligned to the ISTE standards and the SAMR model. Learn more about the program that teachers call addicting at forward-edge.net/edubadges. Instructional coaches support teachers, students, administrators, and really everyone in the district. In fact, research shows that instructional coaching is one of the most impactful forms of professional development that results in improved teacher instruction and student achievement. But who is supporting the coach? Forward Edge provides multiple year-long mentorship options recommended by the Google for Education Certified Coach Program to help you gain the valued support you need as an instructional coach. Visit forward-edge.net to start giving PD to the ultimate PD providers.
Welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us. We are here, Katie Ritter and Justin Thomas, hosts of Restart Recharge, and we are here, of course, with Anna Marie Reinhardt and Jill Dubois, talking about imparting joy. We're getting all up in our feels here. So we just ended before the break, and Jill was really sharing the difference, and I love the way that you described that, Jill, about kind of the difference between happiness and joy, and I think that really does hit home, that like happiness based on what happens, right? Like you get one email that is just seems nasty. You have one person not respond to you in the way you think that they should, like in the hallway, right? Like that could change your direct happiness that day, but that overall joy, I love it so much. So, So kind of thinking, like, you guys have talked about all of these amazing ways that you are sort of creating joy and these moments that are just really contributing to a really positive culture across your entire buildings. But so thinking about, like, on the flip side, like thinking about how have you individually been impacted to kind of help you have more of this like joyful spirit, because I would very much describe both of you that way, of just having like a very joyful spirit. You know, I think it's always so evident when you, no matter, for both of you, when you're in a room, everyone else is happy and everyone else is smiling and everyone else is in a good mood. And I would, you know, be remiss to think that it is not in part because of, you know, you and the joyful presence that you both bring. So, but that's not to say that like you both aren't sad or angry or grumpy sometimes, right? Like you're human beings. So thinking about all of those things that kind of lead you to have that more larger positive outlook and being able to have the optimism and to see the bright spots throughout the day, maybe where other people don't see the bright spots, or, you know, the bright people where other people don't see these people as, you know, bright people in the building. So with your own experience, what are some things that have happened, whether small or big, that have really kind of changed your outlook, either on like a long-term scale or just kind of in the moment?
I think for me, you know, it's all about perspective, because yeah, like you said, Katie, I mean, of course there are days that we're like sad or like I don't feel my best, um, or I'm just like really tired and I don't really feel like I have all that much like joy to give. Um, Honestly, working in schools and being around, just other people who like everybody has their stuff going on,
Mm-hmm.
everybody. And I feel like the students that I get to work with have kind of an unfair helping of stuff going on at home. And of course it's not the whole school, but I just think that keeping that in mind really helps me and gives me that like boost to try and stay positive. I also think that I am really lucky in that teachers that I work with recognize when I'm trying to kind of throw them a lifeline or like give them a little bit of a boost, and they recognize that and thank me for it. Like I got a text message yesterday from a teacher who had asked me to come in like twice a day every day this week to help her students with a project. And I was like, "Yes, I would love to do that." I That's like one of my I love working with the adults, but when I get to work with kids, it's like, just really great. So went in, even kind of helped with projects that were ending, kind of overlapping the time I was supposed to be there. So I got to help with like social studies and language arts, and it was so fun. And she just took the time to send me a text message like, "Thanks so much for being here. You have no idea how much I appreciate it. Like, your smile helps," all this like wonderful stuff. And she did it because she was like, "I know you're not normally here on Fridays and I didn't get a chance to tell you. So like I know I'm not going to get to see you before spring break." Like it was just so kind. And I think it is just like other people taking just a couple of minutes to do something like that. Like that made my entire week. Like that was so nice, for her to just say thanks. Um, and then something that I think is really cool that our principal has done is, um, he does like staff and student shout out. So people can send in, they fill out a Google form of like a person that they've like caught doing something really great or that aligns with one of the school's kind of mantras. And I remember one time someone filled one out for me and I was like kind of embarrassed because I don't really like that much attention, but it was really nice to hear my name like shouted out over the announcements. And like I don't know who did it, but it was so cool and so nice. um but one thing that kind of came to mind as we were talking about all this was, we were lucky enough to go to the McCall conference, a lot of us last week, and everybody on the team knows how excited I was to see the keynote speaker. Joe Dombrowski may have talked about it a little bit too much, but he's just so funny. So he kind of talked about,
Anne Marie, say his
like,
name again, just in case
yes,
anyone
Joe
didn't hear it.
Dombrowski. So if you follow him on social media, it's Mr. D times three, like spelled out Times 3. Um, and so, like, brief background, he's a teacher turned comedian. He's kind of done both. And now he is like mostly a comedian, but still subs every once in a while. And he's like super passionate about recognizing the hard work that teachers do, and like how important teachers are just in general. So anyway, to kind of make a long story short, the school culture was something that like one of his districts was really struggling with, particularly with behavior concerns. And so he talked about how he met with admin and they really looked at when most of these like discipline referrals were happening. It was like tons of them were happening during lunch. And so he is a very like fun, creative, outgoing person, and he decided he was going to do something called lunchtime DJ or cafeteria DJ or something. And all it was is kids that were recognized for doing what they were supposed to be doing in the cafeteria were basically given a ticket or something that was put into a box, and then they pulled out a name for a kid. I think it was maybe once a week to be the lunchtime DJ.
I think it was Fridays.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, it started off with just like a laptop and a speaker. And then eventually a parent built him like a DJ booth with, he said, like LED lights, and it was crazy cool. And I just think, sometimes doing things like that could maybe be like kind of embarrassing. He was like up there. I mean, he doesn't seem to get embarrassed, but he was like up there dancing with the kids and stuff. Like that would be really hard for me to do. But I think sometimes pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zone too, just to kind of make someone's day a little bit brighter, can be a really cool thing. And I believe he actually talked about that on his podcast. He has a podcast called the Social Studies Podcast. So if you weren't at McCall or you've never seen him talk, I'm pretty sure you can find that story on his podcast. It was really cool, and it turned things around really, really fast. So
yeah,
kind of
I loved it. And he talked about some like bonus. You could also win like a dance party to have a friend up for a dance party. And he was like, little kids will do anything for a dance party. And I'm like, so will I.
Well, and then he showed like he was up there like mimicking the dance moves of like a second grader, and she does a cartwheel, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna do that. Right? Like, he didn't even know he was like doing everything she was doing. It was so funny.
What was the question again?
How I know, right?
Yeah, lots of
good story.
stories.
So we are looking for how have things that other people done impacted you, right? So maybe in your like human moments where maybe you were upset or frustrated, what have been the little things that have made a difference for you to kind of bring you back to that focus and that joy?
I will have to say that it's my kids. If you know your kids, they can read you like a book. So, it's not always, we're so self-contained that sometimes we only see our kids throughout the day, or when we're transitioning, we might see another colleague or a peer, and that's just such a brief, exchange. And yeah, it is great to see other teachers and administrators and to pass each other and say, hey, how's it going? Fist bump. But there is nothing like your kids who know you and know you enough to, when you are having a really down day, or they can see it in your face, or they can just see it in your body language, and they come up to you and just put their hand on your back and say, hey, are you okay? Are you all right, Mrs. Dubois? What can I do for you? I mean, to have a 7 or an 8-year-old do that, it's like, whoa, wait a second. It just makes you do a self-check. And like you said, like Anna Marie said, it's like, we are all on our different journeys. We all have so much stuff going on, and we don't always know that we're expressing it, or that we're projecting it out of our voice or our body language or our facial expressions. But when kids know and then they respond that way, there is just nothing like that. I mean, you just feel it down in your heart. So I have one little girl, especially, she kind of sits close up to the front because she needs to have some preferred seating, but she always
I like that terminology.
Yes, preferred seating.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got preferred seating, and she sits up front, and she whenever she hears my voice change, if I am like they're feeling some frustration, my voice does change very often. She's like, speak in your English accent. I'm like, what? She goes, yeah, speak with your British accent. Oh, and think about Piper Lou and think about shopping at Nordstrom Rack. Okay. Yes, I think that I will. Thank you very much, Mackenzie. That makes me feel so much better. And it's just, it's just little things like that. This kid knows, my goodness, all I need to do is think about my dog and shopping and speaking in a British accent to make me feel better. So it's those little moments. I mean, my goodness, just like Mr. D times three. I mean, it's the little things that make you almost snap out of whatever it is that you are feeling and break hold of whatever it is that's tying you down and just kind of go, get it back in perspective, right? Life is not, yeah, you've got a lot of stuff going on. You got a lot of ish, and you're going to get home and deal with it too. But while you're here and you're in front of these sweet, sweet faces, my goodness, just let it go.
Oh, that is super sweet. So for all of our coach listeners that are like, I don't have these kids every day to remind me of my British accent, go back and listen to Mark's episode. We had Mark Gumm on, and he was talking about student-centered coaching and ways that he finds opportunities as a coach to stay and get connected with kids. And Anna Marie, I feel like you've given so many great tips on how you do that as well in the coach role. I think it was the second or third episode from our second season.
Yes.
I know it's called Student-Centered Coaching if you go back and look for it, but he'll give you some more tips on top of all the things that Anna Marie have given you, so then maybe you can have some of those go-to kiddos to help you bring you back, like Jill is saying.
Yes, those go-to kiddos are always so important. And talking about tips, as you very well know, we always...
Yep, for that one, didn't I, Justin?
Yeah, you did a great job setting me up for that. As you know, we always finish our podcast episodes with our top 3 tips. So, Anna Marie and Jill, what are your top 3 tips for imparting joy?
Okay, so I would say the first one that comes to mind is lift others up, because that's going to probably make you feel better too. Like, I love tweeting about cool things that are happening in the school. It gives me joy. And I know that when those teachers see my entire Twitter feed on all of the TVs in the entire building, shouting them out, that makes them feel really good too. So that's one way I would say, build up others, because it's probably going to make you feel really good too. I mean, it's really hard not to talk about the kids. So I would just say, just remember who you're doing this job for. I think it's really hard to kind of stay in a negative place when you think about the students that you see every day, or maybe if you're a coach a couple of times a week, but just trying to focus on that, I think really helps keep you positive. And then I would say, just take care of yourself. Do what you need to do to stay positive. If it's listening to a funny podcast on your way home, or I don't know, taking a walk with your dogs or something, take care of yourself, because if you're running low on that positivity, it is going to affect others. It just is, because like Jill said, even itty bitty second graders can tell. So I think, a great way to impart joy is to take care of yourself so that you can continue to be that positive person for those around you, and especially little ones if you're around them too.
Awesome.
Wow. Yeah, I like those. I wrote one of those down. So for myself, I think probably my top 3 would be human, be approachable, and be funny, because kids love humor. But the first one, be human. You've just got to be yourself. Being joyful is an attribute of being human. Let kids know you, not just about you. Kind of figure out your starting point. Be approachable. Let them know that they can come to you whenever they need you. And that kind of works not even just outside of the classroom too. I think just in general in life, be human, be approachable, be funny. And you also, throughout that, you got to listen. When we're not all naturally funny. I'm not funny, but I love to use ongoing dialogue to invest in connecting with students. So sometimes it comes out funny and I don't even know it. And then they laugh and I'm like, oh, I guess that was funny. So
Jill, you make me laugh. So
Yeah,
don't
you make
sell
me
yourself
laugh
short.
too, yeah.
I think you just, find out how human your classroom should be in order for your students to grow. So be human, be approachable, be funny.
Love it. Good tips. And then would both of you like to, we don't normally do this. We always link it in the show notes, but I feel like maybe we should start actually having people say it on the podcast.
Sure.
Do both of you want to share like any social media handles or anything that like, listeners, if they want to connect and follow you, that they would like to do? Jill, we'll start with you, and then Anna Marie, you can share too.
Sure. Always on Twitter at Jill Dubois 22. And if you can't find me there, you can seek me out on my website, impartedjoy.com.
Great. And will you spell your Twitter handle, Joy? Or Jill?
Joy.
Sure.
Should be Joy.
It should be Joy. Is Joy your middle name?
No, it's Jill, JILLDUBOIS 22.
Awesome. Thank you. And then Anna Marie?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at Mrs. Reinhart 1, and there are like 80 billion ways to spell my last name. So it's MRSRINEHART 1.
Awesome. Thanks. So when you're finished listening here in just a few minutes, be sure to hop over to Twitter to follow these wonderful, joyful guests. And I can promise that they will bring you joy in your Twitter feeds when you see what they are sharing.
That's a guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
Well, once again, thank you both, Anna Marie and Jill, for joining us here on Imparting Joy.
Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you.
Thank
That was
you.
awesome.
Tune in next time for goal setting to get results. So we're going to discuss how you can set coaching goals that will allow you to build success as an instructional coach. That's coming in 2 weeks. So be sure to listen into that. And also hear the information at the beginning of this episode. But please don't forget that we have 2 awesome coaches camps coming this summer, sponsored by great partners, including Book Creator and Connect Hub and Google for Education. You can join us either in New Orleans in June or in Cincinnati in July. So make sure that you register today and use the promo code RRPodcast in all caps to get $50 off your registration. You can also use the hashtag FECamp22 to find more information on social media as well.
And be sure to subscribe to Restart Recharge wherever you listen to podcasts, and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at RRCoachCast.
And also be sure to reach out to us on social media if there is any topics that you wish to discuss, or if you just want to impart some joy.
We love it. And with that, press the restart button.
Recharge your coaching batteries and leave feeling equipped and inspired to coach fearlessly with the Restart Recharge podcast.
Attack Coach Collective. Should we say it like this, actually, so then we feel like we're talking to them, but we're talking into a mic?
Yeah, I was trying to do that.
We're always trying to improve the audio.
It sounds really good. Like
I know, I think so too.
here.
Okay, thank you.
It's like
That's why you're on the Joy.